Welcome to the latest episode of First Word in Sport. Arne slot in. Arne slot in. I mean, talk me through it, James. Another absolutely disgraceful performance from Liverpool against Paris Saint-Germain. Not just that, but how negative he was in terms of setting the team up like that. Can't imagine you've seen too many Liverpool teams over the years set up quite as negatively as that.
No, afternoon. We're recording this on Friday afternoon. Hello, everyone. Yeah, Groundhog Day, really, again, isn't it? I mean, I did hear some rumours on Wednesday afternoon about what sort of team he was putting out, and more importantly, the actual formation he was putting out. And the rumours came true at 6:45 now, 15 before the game. 3-5-2, or some sort of 3-5-2. It really wasn't 3-5-2. I actually don't know what it was. I don't think anyone else knows what it was. I don't think Slot knows what it was, and I don't think, more importantly, the players knew exactly what it was. It was an absolute mess, disaster, anything you can find in the English dictionary, really. From the moment that a manager changes to three at the back, who never plays three at the back, it's red flags. He should have been sacked on the spot, really. I don't mind three at the back as a formation. A lot of teams actually use it. I know they set up as four at the back, but actually attack with three at the back. You know, it's not uncommon now. You look at Man City under Guardiola, they do it quite often, kind of thing. But he just, it's a sign of desperation. I think I texted you and a load of others on Wednesday. Sign of desperation from Slot, trying to keep his job. It was embarrassing. This is Liverpool Football Club, who've won 6 European Cups. Royalty, won the league last season, and he's going to PSG and telling his players, or asking his players, to play a formation that they've never played before at the club. The only other time was Crystal Palace at home in the Carabao Cup, not with this 11 players though. 2 training sessions. What are you expecting from the game? It was pathetic. It was borderline pathetic. It was with the worst coach side, arguably, in Europe, and 2-0 wasn't a fair reflection of the game. Could have been 5 or 6. Didn't have a shot. Ridiculous performance.
I think what's interesting is we've seen Newcastle go to Paris Saint-Germain and play similar system in terms of 5 at the back. I think the problem Paris Saint-Germain present you with is, given they have the 2 best fullbacks in the world, arguably, and they have 2 fantastic wide players as well, is you have to be so careful in terms of how it is you want to play against them. And clearly, Slot, how they've seen something that thinks that, playing the 3 at the back or, with wing backs is the way to go, yet to be convinced.
No, exactly. No. Their 2 fullbacks are absolutely brilliant. Like Nuno Mendes, as a left back, is just sensational. He's by far the best left back going in world football, and there's an enormous gap to the next left back, whoever that might be. Hakimi was popping up everywhere. Their movement's fantastic. But they made it easy for Liverpool. I mean, the 2 lads in midfield for Liverpool they've had 2 of the worst seasons I've ever seen from a Liverpool player. I'd rather have Lucas Leiva now as a centre midfielder, even at his age, than Ryan Gravenberch. Ryan Gravenberch, again, on Wednesday night, was one of the worst performances you can ever see. Lazy, half-arsed, couldn't be bothered, can't pass the ball in the forward line. We gave him a new contract 6 weeks ago. Shambles of a player, absolute shambles. He's been rubbish for 18 months now. And if people don't want to hear it, but he's not a very good footballer at all at this level. And nonsense. McAllister just looks a shadow of the player he was. And he needs to stop diving, by the way.
Play
acting and diving on Wednesday night.
What do you mean on Wednesday night? He's done it all season. He is such a... obviously when he's on your team you don't mind too much, but he is a highly unlikable individual. He's been cheating all year long.
Yeah, it was poor. And PSG will be... I mean, Liverpool still...
Okay.
They are still in a tie, but I'm not under this manager, they're not in a tie at all. But PSG should have beaten them 4-5-0. Dembele had a shocking game. Well, not a shocking game, but didn't take his chances at all, did he? And there was 2 clear penalties, in my view, weren't given.
I struggle to see how the first one's overturned when it's given on the field. I know in Europe things are slightly different, but there is contact with the player before getting the ball. It takes a bit of a stretch to believe that it didn't have some impact on the player. And to overturn it, interesting. And then obviously the second one it just looked like a push. His arms extended. I don't know. I don't quite know how you have VAR and make these decisions.
Felt sorry for us, maybe.
You're not called Liverpool for nothing.
But yeah, no, yeah, it was embarrassing. It was worse than Hodgson. Like, Liverpool still got some really good players, right? They still have got some good footballers. They've just been used badly. I mean, you spend £100 million on Florian Wirtz and you play him right midfield, right wing. You play Hugo Ekitike left wing, and you play Dominic Szoboszlai as a number 9. Talk me through that one. But anyway, it's beyond, like, I've been saying it since October, haven't I? But it doesn't look like Slot's going anywhere unless... I still think he might go after the PSG game. But it's not just on Slot now. It's on Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards. They've got to take some responsibility. Forget the transfer window in the summer. Now is the decision to make the decision about getting rid of them. And it seems like those two aren't going to be hanging around anyway. Their contracts only run till summer 27. And there's big rumours obviously about Richard Hughes going to Saudi. That wouldn't surprise me one iota. And we don't know what Michael Edwards is going to be up to because of the FSG has stopped looking at clubs for Liverpool to buy, and that's probably because they're still interested in buying a new NBA franchise or purchasing new NBA franchises. Looks like it's going to happen in Vegas in 27, 28 I think it is. They want to be ahead of that queue, so it's worrying times for the Liverpool fan on and off the field. If they don't get top 5, it's going to be...
Hold on. Let me get my violin out for you, having won the league last year. Anyway, I'm bored of talking about Liverpool's woes. Let's talk about Arsenal against Sporting. Tough to know where to start, really, apart from, obviously, it's a great result for Arsenal. Really good finish from Havertz. It wasn't a result they deserved. They were really, really poor once again, and they keep finding a way to get results. I mean, the worry for them would be is, you saw some of the other teams play over, the midweek fixtures, and they look on a different level to Arsenal do in some respects. Now, it may well be different when Arsenal play them, as they showed when they played Bayern Munich, but if Arsenal don't find something significantly better than what they're doing at the moment, they aren't doing the double this year, despite potentially having an unbelievable draw.
Yeah, it was just a weird game. I was watching it, as I said, on Tuesday night with an Arsenal fan and a couple other people as well. And, yeah, they were just poor. They really were poor. I know the commentary was saying, Sporting a tough team to play against and this and that. They're Sporting Lisbon. They're not top of,
They're not even top of Portugal,
things like that. And, yeah, they just don't... We know about it. They just don't create anything barring set pieces. When you stop the set pieces at Arsenal, they've not got the ability or the intent to go and win a game of football playing half-decent football, try and create and open teams up. They've just not got the ability to do it. They've not got the plans in place to do it, and they never have done under Arteta. And I don't think they ever will do, because he's never shown that in his career. He can go and be expansive. There's no history to see, in my eyes, that he can do it. So, yeah, it is a good result. And maybe, as we talked about on Monday, it is all just a moment getting results and getting over the line. But as you say, if you want to go and win the Champions League, and bear in mind, Arsenal have ever been to one Champions League final when they lost in Paris to Barcelona. Obviously, Jens Lehmann got sent off, I think, that day, didn't he?
Yeah.
And last year they got spanked by PSG in the semi-finals, let's be honest about it. There's no other way of looking at it. So, yeah, it is, and obviously Havertz scores the last-minute goal. He is still a good player. His technique is brilliant. It's a great first touch, and he doesn't panic. Slides into the bottom corner. Thanks very much for coming 1-0. Should progress and move on to semi-finals. But I don't like this nonsense that's saying that David Raya is the best keeper in the world. He's not even close to being the best keeper in the world.
Well, let's save that. We'll talk about that as a separate topic in a few minutes. The thing that really stands out when you watch Arsenal for me is just the lack of intent from certainly the midfielders in terms of advancing the ball. Everything's always so safe, so many sideways passes. It's just so negative, and it's like, how do you expect to get into good positions? You know, obviously teams are going to defend pretty deep against Arsenal just generally, but if you're never moving the ball with any speed and purpose, I mean, honestly, you're not going to break. These teams are so well organised these days that it's so tough to break them down if you don't move it with a bit of pace and, as I say, intent. It's not like they have got great wingers. You know, Madueke did okay at times in that game, but you look on the other side where you had Trossard. It's just honestly, there's nothing there.
I've said to you on this pod as well, I'm not afraid of Arsenal at all. Like, forward line of Trossard, Gyökeres and Madueke. I mean, take it or leave it. It's not nothing. You're not going to go all losing sleep about it. If I'm a centre back or a defender, I'm not going to go, oh, that's Dembele, Desiree Doué, Barcola, Yamal, you name it, Elise, Gnabry, Diaz, Kane. They're not even the same postcode as that lot. So yeah.
But what's been incredible is that obviously with Barcelona losing 2-0, I mean, there's a good chance they'll face Atletico Madrid in the semi-finals. And, they played, Leverkusen, Sporting Lisbon, Atletico Madrid to get to a Champions League final. Are you having a laugh?
Well, it's the same all season. The FA Cup, they got no one. Carabao Cup, they got no one. In the league stage of the Champions League, they played, Bayern Munich at home? They went to Inter Milan, but Inter Milan are top of Serie A, but everyone's beaten them. Liverpool beat them away. And who else they played? Not many people. They haven't played I said to you on this pod a couple of weeks ago, they've not really beaten anyone in the last 2 years. Beat Real Madrid, but they were garbage last season. Who else they beat? Beat Man City at home 5-1. But this season they've beaten no one of any note. Apart from Bayern Munich at home in the first... in the group stage.
They beat Villa. They beat Villa 4-1 or whatever it was. But even in that game, it's honestly, they weren't brilliant. Obviously 0-0 at half time, Onana goes off. They score from a couple of set piece goals straight away. There was nothing, and then beating up on a. Honestly, it wasn't a performance that made you go wow, and maybe we just won't see that under Arteta. We won't see these wow performances. Let's touch on that Barcelona Atletico Madrid game. Obviously, the sending off was huge. And obviously then Alvarez and Sorloth scored for Madrid, win 2-0, pole position going back home next week.
Yeah, that game all changed, didn't it, on the sending off just before half time, when the player should have been sent off anyway. I don't know why the referee didn't give him a straight red card. VAR worked properly again, and Julian Alvarez, he is a fantastic footballer. If you could get him back, he'd walk into most teams in world football. He's absolutely brilliant. He can do everything. He plays a 9, plays a 10, player for the left. Fantastic footballer. Brilliant free kick. And then they were 1-up and cruising. Barcelona have got a few issues in midfield. They're playing Eric Garcia as a holding midfielder. I mean, please, it's just... I know you've got a few injuries, and that's the problem. Gavi's coming back, but he hasn't looked the same player after his injuries. They're missing Frankie de Jong big time. I thought the highlights I watched, Lamine Yamal did some couple of pieces of skill down the right hand side were just generational levels. Reminded me of Messi a lot. So with him still on the side, they missed Rafinha off the left with Rashford. Had an alright game by the looks of it, but I think Rafinha's a much better player, has been over the last couple of seasons. They've still got chances, Barcelona on Tuesday night, but it is pole position for Atletico Madrid. They'll have Oblak back probably next week as well. That's a big plus for them as well. So, yeah, I didn't expect that result. I don't think anyone expected that result. But yeah, it's tough when you're playing Atletico Madrid and you're 1-0 down at home and you've got 10 men. It's tough to get anything back.
I think it shows you knockout football, anything can happen. So if you do, a bad decision or just have a player sent off, these types of things it really can change the whole context of the tie. There's such an importance being put on making sure you finish games with 11 players and things like that.
Well, saying that, so totally forgot about that is the VAR didn't get actually the whole thing right. You should have sent the player off, the Atletico Madrid player, for handling the ball. The ball was in play, and the referee's gone, no, he's had that incident, the same thing as what happened with Mings in Europe last season, given a penalty. And that was a penalty and a yellow card, and it should have been 10 against 10 and a penalty for Barcelona. So I just don't understand how the referee
we saw that in another Premier League game where it wasn't Arsenal, yeah, it wasn't given, and when I think that's where it gets tough to take. Obviously, it didn't make any difference longer term for Villa, but when you have some referees who will give it and then some who won't, again, it's just that consistency. Are they saying that is a penalty, yellow card, etc., or are they saying actually there's no advantage to be gained and just play on? And I'd much rather the latter there, because no one's trying to actually get an advantage if it's done in an innocent manner. The penalty for it is just so high, but you can't give it in some games and be in the rules and then just choose not to give it in others.
Yeah, there needs to be a directive, doesn't there, really, to say if this happens, then it's just a restart, or if it does happen, it's just a penalty. So whatever it needs to happen, or an indirect free kick, don't care what it is, but you can't have one rule for one thing, because that's a huge game. But can you imagine that's in a Champions League final? That happens, 89th minute, whatever it is. Anyway,
Real Madrid lost 2-1 to Bayern Munich. I think Bayern Munich might regret not putting them away, to be honest. It was a crazy game. I mean, the irony being, obviously, that was being played at the same time as the Arsenal game. Obviously, I had both screens up at the time, and this eye was falling asleep watching Arsenal, and this, it was an incredible game in terms of how back and forth it was.
Yeah, it's a brilliant game. It's by two young managers who really don't know how to set up defensively, and you've got superstars on the field on both sides, and you've got an all-time great goalkeeper rolling back the years of Manuel Neuer at the age of 40 after a load of injuries in the last few years, putting off some unbelievable saves from Mbappe especially. So yeah, I mean,
by the way, he got incredibly lucky with that through ball that the defender sort of headed back to him and it hit him, because he was in no man's land. I mean, but you talk about very fine margins in games. That's just a good example.
But that's Neuer all over, isn't he? He always comes out that far. He's always done throughout his whole career. Even when he was at Schalke, he was always like that. Yeah, the best player on that pitch was Mikel Arteta. He's just a sensational footballer. He really is. It's just scary how good he is. He had that Madrid left back on absolute toast. He didn't know what to do. But as you say, I think Real Madrid got away with it. But when you're 2-0 up, Bayern Munich, you're thinking, put this game and tie to bed, 3-0, game over. But that 2-1 for next Wednesday night's game is decent. I saw an awful lot of rubbish being spoken in English media. Tuchel's been proven right not picking Trent Alexander-Arnold for the World Cup, etc. He didn't track the run on Luis Diaz. Generally, he's got no chance in what he's doing. He knows he's behind him, Diaz, from the ball from Gnabry. But he's not going to cut that ball out in a million years. It doesn't matter who he is. He could be the prime, best right-back ever lived. They're not going to stop that ball going out. And the ball for Mbappe, by the way, is the reason why you take Trent to the World Cup. It's absolutely sensational. It's on the plate. There you go. Go and put that ball in the back of the net. There's not many players in world football who can do that from that position as a right-back. Don't care who you are. You're not going to think Ben White's going to do that, are you?
I mean, I do think that, that Trent goal was interesting, that first one, where when you look at it, the left back, nothing will be said about the left back. I mean, the left back was 4 yards behind play, and obviously everyone else is playing a pretty solid line, should we say? And I think it's very difficult to, that ball has to be stopped, from a midfielder. You can't. There's other people responsible for that. Yes, maybe Trent could have done a tiny bit more, but The problem is he's not anywhere near that. When the ball's played like that, he's nowhere near actually getting to Diaz. It just isn't.
But he's not. He can't be expected to. He's just not. He's in the right position. It's a well worked goal. It's a brilliant goal, to be fair to him. Kind of thing.
It was just a nicely taken goal.
You've got to give credit. You've got to give credit to the attacking side and not just. But it's just all through Trent's career. Yeah, he hasn't been the best defender, but it's easy, lazy narrative to say, oh, that's the reason why he shouldn't be going to the World Cup. What do you think to the Harry Kane? Was that 47 or 49 goals he's got this season? What do you think to the keeper, the Madrid keeper? Think Courtois saves it?
Courtois saves it all day, every day. And I don't even think it's close. Right? Courtois is an incredible shot stopper in terms of... because he is so big. His reach... I think he stops that. He would save that and you wouldn't put it down as the best save he made that night.
Yeah, great.
Right? It would just look like a pretty routine save. And that's the difference with these teams is the top keepers make a massive difference. And people aren't really talking about it because obviously the keeper didn't get a hand to it. So everyone just assumes, it's not the keeper's fault. But that's the difference with when you're talking about the very best goalkeepers, is there's just different levels to this. And we can touch on it with Raya in a few minutes. But let's just finish off this particular game. It's tough to imagine Bayern not going through now. And they are going to be a real test for, in that, probably Paris Saint-Germain. It's a shame, really. That would be a great final.
Yeah, that will be a proper game of football. Bayern Munich versus PSG. Kind of probably fancy PSG just because I don't rate the Bayern back four at all. Now look at the Bayern back four. Rampano, Lee, Tar, Conrad Limer's playing. Alphonso Davies came on, didn't he? But he's had obviously injury problems. But that game's beautifully set up for PSG with their movement and their ability to interchange positions. And I just think Luis Enrique, although I don't rate him highly, he's on a different level to Vincent Kompany. And I would like to at least say versus Mendes, it's going to be a great matchup. It's going to be a very good. It's hard to stop PSG when they're on form and when they want it. More importantly.
Well, I said to you months ago is that when you were talking about Paris Saint-Germain struggling, is that they hadn't been able to put out a fit team of a full strength team most of the season because they had injuries in midfield and they were always missing a Dembele or one of the forward players. And what you see is what we saw last year is when and even now they're still missing midfielder
Fabian Ruiz, yeah.
But that Zaire Emery looks proper player.
I was just about to say, Zaire Emery, 20-year-old. Do you see that piece of skill quickly before we move on to Europa League, where Zabozlai's coming into him, I think it was the first half, and he just casually, like he's playing with his mates in the back garden, just stops the ball dead in its tracks, not panic, anything like that, just moves on again, yeah. Brilliant footballer.
Let's touch on Europa League quickly. Big result for Forest last night. 1-1 draw away at Porto. It was good to see Forest made a few changes ahead of that game, actually. Something I've been advocating for a while in terms of, they have a massive Premier League game on Sunday against Villa. They should, they've spent a lot of money, Forest, on players like your McAtees of the world. And at some point you have to trust them and give them game time. And why not in a game like this? I mean, obviously Forest were the beneficiaries of a ludicrous own goal. And that's the difference in the tie, really.
45-yard back pass that goes nowhere near the goalkeeper from Fernandez. Yeah, fantastic. One of the all-time greats. It is a good result for Forest, yeah. And you've been calling about it for a long time. They need to play not their first 11. It's good to see Chris Wood back actually make his comeback after 6 months out. He could be a big player for them for the rest of the season. They do need someone who can hold the ball up. He also had a great season last year in the Premier League, so good to see how. I mean, it's going to be tough for him coming back to any sort of level, being out for that long, but he gives him a little bit of decent option to Thiago, who's been actually. Is it Thiago?
No, Jesus.
Thiago's at Brentford. What am I talking about? Apologies. And he's not been too bad, Jesus, but it gives them a little bit of a, if they need a goal, something like that, or just whatever like that, Chris Wood can play. So minutes under his belt there is good for Forest, and it's a very good result, to be fair to them. 1-1.
Well, particularly without Anderson, I think.
Yeah, because he was suspended, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was a great result for Villa. I think they were a little bit fortunate, to put it mildly. Bologna had a goal disallowed for offside. They had, that goal was lucky in terms of it took a massive a really fortunate deflection, but still, it was a close offside. And then they hit the crossbar, and had other chances. Martinez made one of the best saves you'll see all season, off Rowe late on, and I think Bologna will be kicking themselves that they conceded that third goal. I mean, it was just as poor defending as you'll ever see from the corner. Watkins has basically trapped the ball on the 6-yard box. That can never happen. I mean, he tried his best to miss that chance, by the way. But massive result for Villa. But it's one problem with Emery a little bit at times is, he tries to control the game, and everything was very negative in that first half. And they just kept getting themselves into trouble. And, you see them break forward, and then suddenly next thing you know, the ball's back with Martinez, and it's just all very negative. But they've got the job done, and you'd expect them to go through now into the semi-finals. Palace actually won a game in Europe convincingly. Won 3-0 against Fiorentina last night. Wasn't a huge surprise. This Fiorentina team isn't nearly as good as the one that we've seen in previous years in European competition. They're very, very mid to lower table in Serie A, and you can see why.
Yeah, I think Arteta scored first time in 3 months after his failed move in January. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Like, the Premier League are doing so well, they've got all the money, and players want to go where the money is. So there's talk, isn't there? It could be up to 10 or 11 teams in the Premier League next season. So yeah, it is a good first time Palace has actually done anything in this competition. But yeah, 3-0 should see them. That last goal from Ismail Sarr, who's having a good season again, should see them go through comfortably next week. But you never know. Again, could something happen? But yeah, they should win that competition.
I meant to just say, Rowe, by the way, from Bologna.
Yeah.
Obviously he's played England under 21s, and he used to be at Norwich, didn't he? He looked a real handful, actually. He was impressive. So he's someone, I don't think he'll be at Bologna for that long, to be honest.
No, hopefully he stays in this year as well, because I do like when these players go abroad and learn a different culture, learn a different language, get out of their comfort zone. You become a better player, in my view, rather than sticking around in the Championship or low ends of the Premier League, where you're going to have an opportunity to go and learn a different life skill. And you never know where it's going to take him. As you said, he could end up playing for Inter Milan or AC Milan or whoever it is, Napoli next season when he gets a big move from Bologna.
So the other game that took place was it Monday night when, I can't remember which day it was, Southampton absolutely walloped Wrexham. No, it can't have been Monday night. It must have been Tuesday night. So they had been level on points last weekend before Wrexham went ahead of them, but it now puts Southampton in great shape to finish in that top 6 and to make the playoffs. I'm not sure any team will want to be playing Southampton in those playoffs.
Yeah, it's like 18 unbeaten, aren't they now? So yeah,
So let's touch on a couple of things people have been talking about. Andy Robertson is leaving Liverpool at the end of the season. That's been confirmed. There's a story just before we started recording this from David Ornstein, which means that it's pretty likely to happen. But it sounds to me that if Spurs stay up, avoid relegation, that Robertson will go to Spurs.
Yeah, I'm surprised he wants to go to Spurs. Who wants to stay up. He must be offered a huge bag of money to go to Spurs, and maybe wants to live in London for a couple of years before he goes back home north to the border. He's been an unbelievable player for Liverpool for nine seasons. We bought him from Hull for £8 million. And that really was a swap deal. Was Kevin Stewart, the old centre midfielder? We swapped him for the same. And we probably thought it'd be a good left back for a couple of years, make a profit on him and set him on. But once he got in the team ahead of Albi Moreno, because remember, he didn't come into the team for 6 months because Albi Moreno was not decent. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But he was actually performing to a decent enough standard before Robertson got into the team, never looked back. Brilliant footballer. Legs have gone in the last couple of years, we know that. But good lead in dressing room, another leader leaving Liverpool, fantastic player. Obviously, we don't know him, but everything you read about him looks brilliant in dressing room, brilliant as a teammate, brilliant as a mate. So yeah, fair play to him to go in. He's not obviously going to get ahead of Kirkus anymore, but yeah, sad to see him go, another one gone as a legend of the club. But yeah, he's been brilliant, probably the best left back in the Premier League for a while. Not on the same level, I don't think, anywhere near the same level as Dennis Irwin or Ashley Cole, but he has been a brilliant servant to the club. Just quickly on that, it does show the Slot's lack of man management. When you knew that Kirkus was coming in, Kirkus struggled for the first couple of months. He just continued played him. He didn't actually play Robertson at all. So it's another bad man management from Slot. But yeah, Tottenham, I don't know why Tottenham are getting their leadership. If they stay up, if they don't stay up, there's talk obviously, isn't there, is Atletico Madrid again, rumours, and Italy. So yeah, he'll have plenty of places to go for a couple of years where he can still do the job.
We touched on this in January when talking about transfer window, and even more so, really, given what's happened to Spurs since. I don't. Yes, Spurs may want some leadership within that team, but I don't really see what signing a Robertson does for a Tottenham team. Who, if he was to sign, would have only just stayed up by the skin of their teeth. He isn't the future. What happened to Udogie, Spence, the young lads who they signed? Maybe Udogie will go. I don't know. But I don't know. It doesn't really strike me as a signing by Spurs looking ahead to actually trying to sort out that squad. But
Especially with Deserby coming in as well, yeah. So things up in the air with him. But yeah.
Let's talk David Raya, because we've touched on it a few times now, but what you see these stories sort of gather pace in the media, and you've seen it again this week, is the narrative is that David Raya is the best goalkeeper in the world now, and it's not open to debate. One of the problems I have with it is people are looking at his performance against Lisbon, and I've seen people say, "Oh, he made 6-7 great saves," and the truth is so exaggerated at times. He made one great save, which was the one where he tipped the ball onto the bar, and aside from that, he didn't have huge amounts of saves to make. He made a pretty routine save from a header. He made another good save where he blocked it, where he'd actually fumbled the initial shot. So, it was a good recovery save, but it was actually come from an error in the first place. I think the strengths he has are things like, obviously, his distribution, and, you see him clear, sweeping as such, not quite Neuer-esque, but not far off. He's one of the more adventurous keepers, should we say, in terms of helping Arsenal sort of play a high line. But I just find this narrative that he's one of the best. He's 6 foot. I look at someone like Courtois. Courtois would have saved that shot from the Sporting Lisbon player, probably with his elbow. It has another. It makes it look so routine that you wouldn't think it was a great save. And that's, I've talked about this with regard to Pickford and any of these smaller goalkeepers. When they're making fingertip saves onto the crossbar, your bigger keepers, like your Courtois and your Alissons and these types of keepers, Donnarumma, they aren't getting fingertips to these ones. They are saving them relatively comfortably.
Yeah, I think he is a good keeper.
I'm not saying he's not a good keeper, right? He's one of the best keepers in the world, right? But what he isn't is the best goalkeeper in the world. And there's a media narrative now and on social media that he is clearly the best goalkeeper in the world. He's not clearly the best goalkeeper in the world. Courtois is on a different level to Raya.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think it's probably because of the Kepa, when he played in the Carabao Cup final and in the FA Cup, didn't it? That they can see the difference and they can say, oh, look at the difference he brings to Arsenal using that. And then I hate how these press continually do it, using clean sheets as a barometer of how good a goalkeeper is. It's absolute nonsense. It shouldn't even be anywhere near it. It's like assists for a forward or something like that.
What if it's the same as save percentage for goalkeepers?
Yeah, it's. I just don't get it at all. And it. Oh, excuse me.
No, so it's yeah. I think there's certain measures used that just complete nonsense, and save percentage would fit into that, as would clean sheets. I think goalkeepers tend to be very difficult to measure, and I think as a general rule, they tend to be judged poorly. You know, they may be judged on the odd error here and there as to whether they're a good goalkeeper or not. And you know, I think I could make a pretty good case that Martinez has been better this year than Raya has. You know, that's whether you look at the numbers or you actually watch the games. Yes, Martinez has made a couple of mistakes. You know, one from a corner. I remember there's one other he fumbled. I think it was against Everton. He shouldn't have, but he's also made a ton of incredible saves. And you know, it's, I don't know. I just find that media get a story like this, they jump on it and they run with it, and the next thing you know is Raya's the best goalkeeper in the world. James, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm back. Sorry about that, everyone. So yeah, when he's not even, I was saying he's not even the Spanish number one, Unai Simon is, but that's probably because Simon plays in Spain anyway. However, when Arsenal bought David Raya, well, they got him on loan from Brentford with an obligation to buy the year after for tax purposes, whatever it was. Everyone's like, oh, we got Aaron Ramsdale, we spent £25 million on him. And I remember talking to Arsenal fans, goes, this guy's a different level, like, because of his distribution is one huge asset he does have over a lot of goalkeepers. And I think that's quite underappreciated. And when he doesn't play, you can actually see it, how Arsenal rely on him to be almost a third centre-back or an extra outfield player, that they can actually move the ball and he can spread the ball 30, 40 yards. Not as good as Ederson, the ex-Man City goalkeeper, but in a similar kind of way where they can, you know, the ball can be moved very quickly, long distances, when teams are out of position. So he has got that. I mean, I was just looking through the Arsenal goalkeepers of recent times. So they obviously had Ramsdale, then before they had Bernd Leno. He played a couple of seasons there, the Fulham goalkeeper, Matthew Ryan, do you remember him, the Aussie? They had, obviously, Martinez, they had Petr Cech, David Ospina. They had Wojciech Szczesny, who's now at Barcelona, for a long time, didn't they? They had Victor Mannone, who really didn't progress. Fabianski, they had him. So they've had gone through a lot of goalkeepers, never really settled on one goalkeeper over a long period of time. And this seems to me that they've actually got a goalkeeper who will win you the title. I always believe if you want to be a very good, successful team, you have to have a decent top-class keeper. And he is a decent top-class keeper. All we're saying is he's not, I don't think he's the level as Courtois, etc. I'd argue Alisson is better than him. Shot stopping, but Alisson's obviously hamstrings have popped now completely, so he's on his way down. But yeah,
I think that would be the point. Is I'm not saying he's not even a top 5 goalkeeper in the world. I think you could make a pretty good case that he is a top 5 goalkeeper in the world. It's just simply that, you know, to give someone the best goalkeeper in the world title on the back of one or two games, in terms of, a good game away in Europe. You know, that wasn't an Alisson away at Paris Saint-Germain type performance last year, by the way. That wasn't where literally he's won Liverpool that game, with like 10 saves. Raya's made one really good save and a couple of other decent saves. It's the joys of playing behind this Arsenal team, and in the way Arteta sets things up, you're never going to have to make all that many saves. I mean, the one stat you do see with Raya is how many goals are scored from distance against him, because he isn't that big.
Yeah, he doesn't get across quick enough, does he? So
well, it's not even that. He just isn't as big as some people. Like you saw the save I don't know if you saw the save Martinez made from Rowe last night, where Rowe's look of utter disbelief. Does Raya save that? No, because he's not big enough. He doesn't get to it.
If some saves you've seen Donnarumma make or Courtois say, remember Courtois in the Champions League final, 2022 kind of thing, an unbelievable performance. Yeah, right. Anyway, should we move on quickly?
Different levels, I think, would be my observation. But not to say he's not a very good goalkeeper. Okay, let's touch on this week's Premier League matches just quickly. So, big one tonight, West Ham Wolves. Obviously a massive, massive game for West Ham. It feels like a must-win game for them. If they are able to win, they would go 2 points ahead of Spurs, although Spurs do have the better goal difference, so it'd feel more like 1 point. But it would put Spurs and De Zerbi under so much pressure if they can. And Somerville, certainly last night when I was looking at it, Somerville's 50-50, I think, as to whether he plays tonight. West Ham have got all their other players back. Wolves actually are pretty full strength. And I think that first goal is going to be so big for both teams. But West Ham, I think everyone wants West Ham to win tonight, don't they?
You're not a Tottenham fan, you're cheering on West Ham tonight at the London Stadium. I mean, they might have to take a chance in Somerville. He at least have to be in the squad, surely. You can put him on the bench and just pretend that some teams do. They put a player on the bench, pretend that they're fit when they're clearly not. But you've got to have him in and around the squad if you can, if anywhere 70% fit, just to give the crowd a bit of a lift. Be very interested to see what the crowd actually is at the London Stadium tonight. But as you say, West Ham needs to be taking advantage of that. Wolves have been decent, but we don't know what they've been up to in the last 3 weeks. So you just never know, kind of thing. So 3 weeks is a long time not to play a game of football for these boys.
So, couple of games tomorrow afternoon, not particularly exciting. So Brentford and the Burnley games. Obviously, massive game for Arsenal tomorrow at home against Bournemouth. They've got the dreaded Saturday 12:30 slot, having been away in Europe on the Tuesday evening. This is obviously at least they're at home, I guess, rather than being so the fixture isn't as bad for them. But they don't have a good record against Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth beat them twice last year. I think this is going to be tricky for Arsenal, really tricky.
It's a game you don't really want, especially that 12:30 game as well, when the pressure is on. You haven't been playing well. You know that Bournemouth have had some rest. Again, it's 3 weeks, a long time for them not to play. Yeah, I hope to see what the young Brazilian kid Ryan does. Whoever plays left back for Arsenal, Calafiore probably will play. They're not going to trust Lewis Skelly in a game like this, are they? So, and Hincapie doubtful, I believe, still. I don't know if he's back fit. It'd just be interesting if Arsenal play their full strength team. I think they will do, because they're not playing till Wednesday, so there's no reason why you wouldn't play rolled out Odegaard, Rice, Mendy. I mean, Havertz deserves a start as well, so put him up front. But yeah, Bournemouth will sit back, I think, and say to Arsenal, come and break us down, and we'll try and use our pace. Tavernier on the break as well. So
I think what Bournemouth will do is, so sometimes they press recklessly, other times they're very selective with their pressing. So what they end up doing is they'll let Arsenal have the ball, and when they press, they'll really press. So they'll be super aggressive with it. And we've seen with Arsenal is that if you do put them under some pressure, every defender is capable of making errors under pressure, and we've seen it with your Salibas and Gabriels. They're not immune to that as well. But I think the pressure is on Arsenal, because even a draw here would just, I think a win here and the title's done. And I just think that if anything but a win, and the doubts will creep in for Arsenal. Arsenal fans, I think everyone will just start getting a little bit nervous, because what it also does, it removes the cushion that they have at the moment. You know, so if City were to win the game in hand, if they were to beat Arsenal at the Emirates, you know, a draw here means Arsenal are only a draw away from blowing the title, type of thing, if City run out.
And the game is at the Etihad next Sunday, the 18th, yeah.
So I do think there's quite a bit of pressure on Arsenal here. I think these are the really difficult ones to get up for, I think. You know, but let's wait and see. It's going to be fun to watch. Obviously, Liverpool, Fulham, Saturday evening. I mean, obviously it's important for Liverpool's top 5 chances, but it's not that. You know, compared to some of the other games this weekend, it's not that important. It's not that exciting.
No, I'm actually fortunate enough to be going to that game tomorrow. Well, fortunate or unfortunate, but anyway.
James, don't throw any cabbages at Arne Slot, please.
I'm too far away from where my seats are tomorrow, but yeah. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, it's a game that actually fancy Fulham to get something out of that. Harry Wilson to score a last-minute winner at the Cop End.
So, one of the more interesting games of the weekend is Sunderland-Tottenham. Obviously, it's Zerbi's first game at Tottenham. Slightly surprised that they're both 2.78 on Betfair. I think Sunderland should probably be a little bit shorter on everything we've seen this season. You know, maybe Tottenham will get that new manager bounce. But, you know, Sunderland have got a good record at home, and they've had quite a few niggling injuries in this season, and they'll be in a much better place, I think, you know, from an injury perspective going into this game. I think that's going to be a tricky game for Tottenham, because the one thing you know with Sunderland is they're going to compete for everything, and it'll be a very physical game. And I just wonder with Tottenham just how good they are in those types of games.
Yeah, they're a bit lucky, aren't they? De Zerbi's had a while to be on the training ground to get he's had a decent week to get on the training ground to actually play his system that you want to play, which would be a 3 at the back kind of thing, I would imagine. You just don't know with De Zerbi. He could play 4 at the back, but I'd imagine go back to back 3 default with his position. So they're lucky that he hasn't just come in and had no training sessions. But yeah, it's just dependent on the game tonight, though, isn't it? If they know that West Ham have not won tonight, it gives them a huge boost psychologically, the players. So yeah, it's time for Tottenham players to stand up and actually deliver and show to themselves and the fans and the club that we're actually good footballers here. We shouldn't be where we are, but we are here. So let's try and get ourselves out. We've got 7 games to almost rescue our careers at Tottenham. If they go down, it's going to be Armageddon for Tottenham.
I think if West Ham were to win and Tottenham were to lose, you'd have to become very, very worried for Tottenham.
The noise,
I mean, one of the problems is
between us lot, fans, papers, media, inside the club. Yeah, it's almost a snowball effect. It's very hard to get out of it, especially when they haven't been involved in a relegation battle. Both the manager and the players don't know how to get out of it.
Palace, Newcastle, not that exciting. I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, it's not even as if both teams are going for. I mean, obviously they're both going for Europe, but it's not like they're challenging for the top 5. One interesting game is Forest Villa. Obviously, both teams have played Europa League on Thursday night, both away as well. So that's actually almost a bit of a leveller. So neither team has a huge advantage on that front. I think this will be a tricky game for Villa. I think Forest always seem to be up for these games against Villa, and yeah, I really don't quite know how it's going to go. I think in many respects, I think Villa would almost take a draw given where they are in the top 5 race, relative to other teams. Amid Chelsea having to play Manchester City, anything but a loss, and Emery would be sort of happy enough with it. I think for Forest, a win here, and you know, it's not a case of them being safe, but it would put them very, very close to, you know, it would make life very difficult for West Ham or Tottenham to overtake them, I think.
I think Emery would bite your hands off for. If you offered him a draw here, 0-0, he'd go, yes, thank you, 1-1, whatever it is. You take your hands off, as you said, because of the other fixtures that are going on this week for Villa, and coming back Thursday night as well. I know so did Forest, you say, but I think Emery will go there and he'll be quite negative, and he'll try and set up to be a counter-attack. Watkins obviously got a couple of holes last night, give him a little bit of a boost. I think...
Weirdly, Villa actually is suited. So Villa tend to do better against the better teams who come and actually play against them. So the teams they struggle with tend to be the teams lower in the table, as so many teams do, who, when they sit deep, Villa are so bad at breaking down these teams. But actually, when teams come out and play against Villa, and you have to think that Forest will do that at home. We've seen it in Europe a few times with Villa recently, is Villa do have pretty good weapons on the break. You know, when you have Rodgers coming in from midfield, obviously Watkins is good up there as a lone striker. They do have some dangerous players for counter-attacking football.
Yeah. And then the big game is obviously Chelsea, Man City, isn't it? So, it's that 4:30 game on Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah.
4:30 UK time. So there's no Enzo Fernandez just serving his second game in-house ban. Reece James, he won't be fit, will he? I don't think so. So an awful lot relies on Caicedo and probably Santos midfield. Where will Palmer play? Will Stavio play? And can Man City continue there? You know, after a decent performance against Liverpool in a cup, he didn't have to do much, as everyone knows about. But yeah, Harding getting a hat trick. If he gets back scoring again, wow, you know, they could easily win the next 8, City. It wouldn't surprise me. They've done it before.
Here's one for you then, James. Manchester City treble.
Yeah, well, it's on, isn't it? They've got an easy FA Cup semi-final against Southampton coming up in a couple of weeks.
Would be the most underwhelming treble ever.
It takes some bottling, though, from Arsenal. I think they're 5s on, aren't they? Or 4s on Arsenal to win it. Anyway, but yeah, Man City just have to win. I'll be supporting Man City on Sunday afternoon, obviously. But as a Liverpool fan, but Man City just have to win. They just have to get across the line. And
I'm intrigued to see how Chelsea do here, because, you know, I think he's obviously under some pressure, and it's one thing, not giving it large, but after you beat Port Vale 7-0. I mean, the way Rosenior talks is you would have thought that he's come in and revolutionised Chelsea, but the results haven't been amazing, and you know they're in very real danger. Particularly if Liverpool beat Fulham, that top 5 position for Champions League is looking more and more bleak, and they do not have an easy run in either.
And they've got to go to Anfield as well. Well, that's easy. Most people get points at Anfield this season. But
No, but I mean, even the point is, if you end up with, in those last 6 games, if you end up with 3 or 4 draws, it's difficult to be making up ground on other teams in a Champions League hunt. You know, the worry for Chelsea is if they lose here, is they may not even, finish top 6 or 7, depending on other results. Depending on how other teams go.
Yeah, and that's what we've talked about, isn't it? They struggle to keep hold of their big players, and it's obviously you can't see Fernandez being there next season at all.
Well, I can, because no one's going to pay the money they want for him. I think there's some really weird narratives coming out of Chelsea in terms of the valuations for Fernandez. There was a story this week about shirt sponsorships in Chelsea, and how, I think they wanted, it was 45 or 50 million for the front to shirt sponsor, and if they didn't get that amount, then they weren't going to put anyone on the shirt sponsor again. Obviously, they haven't had one for the last 2 years. It just feels like their ambitions and expectations are so out of kilter with reality, and I think it would be the same with Fernandez. I think you do well to get £60 million for Fernandez, honestly.
They might pay him off like they do. They've still got a shirt sponsor at the moment, haven't they? I don't know how much they're getting for it, but
no, but they don't have a proper front to shirt sponsor. Is my point.
Yeah, they're paying one for 6 months, 4 months a season, weren't they, at the moment? So yeah, But anyway, massive game for Man City. And to make the title race interesting, if Arsenal win, Man City just have to win the next 8 games, don't they? I think they've got 8 left, haven't they? Man City, so.
And then Monday night we have Man United Leeds. Again, I'm intrigued to see how Man United do. This is a tricky game. Leeds have been pretty solid this season. Not buying into the Man United loving just yet, certainly. You know, they had a lot of favourable results early on. They've shown some weaknesses since. And I don't know, I remain to be convinced that this Manchester United team is an amazing team. I think in the summer, if they bring in 3 or 4 players in the right positions, they could be very good. But I just don't see them there at the moment under Carrick.
No, he's just gone in there, made them bits more solid, and realised the Premier League's quite weak and got them up to 3rd. But yeah, he's not Man United's manager. I can't keep on saying it enough, to be honest with you. So yeah.
So that reminds me, one story I did see this week was about Arteta and potentially getting a new contract. So I think he's out of contract in summer of 27. So he'd have obviously just over a year left on his contract. There's talk about him being close to renegotiating his contract, signing a new contract. Talk me through it, because it makes no sense to me. Why not see how the season plays out, and then you can make a decision as to whether you want to give him a big contract. Let's say they sign a deal tomorrow for Arsenal and Arteta, and Arsenal don't win anything this year. You know, like you're going to be paying him as if he's won 2 or 3 trophies in terms of his. It just makes no sense to me. You know, and honestly, if you're worried about him leaving the club, if he wants to go back and manage in Spain or the City job, he'll do that anyway. I don't know. I just don't see what benefit a club gets in an Arsenal situation for giving Arteta a long contract.
Because he's running Arsenal Football Club. He's got too much power at the club. Like, if they don't win anything, he should be sacked anyway, because he's shown over 6 years he can't win anything. But where would he actually go, Arteta, after Arsenal? Like, Barcelona aren't going to appoint him, because he's not got the ability or the style of play to play for Barcelona. Real Madrid, forget about it, similar. Atletico Madrid might be suited him if Simeone goes, but he's going to think, I'm bigger than Atletico Madrid. I won't win anything really in Spain. Although they have got some more financial backing in recent months and years, Atletico. But not going to Italy, really, is he? Because one probably can't afford him anyway. Bayern Munich aren't. Would he go to Bayern Munich? They probably would be going to Bayern Munich. And City won't employ him, I don't think, the way he plays, the way he sets up his team. So he's way above his station. I think he's the 3rd highest paid manager in the world at the moment. Some reports are coming out. Obviously, take a pinch of salt with that. But it's weird. It's like Tuchel, isn't it? Thomas Tuchel, when England gave him a new contract before this year's World Cup. It's just like
that I can understand a little bit in terms of. It will obviously be a big distraction, like with Tuchel, in terms of given he is out of contract after the summer. You know, no one's talking about Arteta and how long he's going to be at Arsenal in terms of this title race. It's not a distraction. You know, I think everyone would just assume that if Arsenal are successful and if they win a double or they do something like that, that Arteta would stay there, be rewarded handsomely with a new contract. I just find it weird that, you know, the contract's not been signed, but it sounds like it's very close to being done. I don't know quite why teams would do it in this particular situation, given what's happened, given the downside to, you know, if you give, as you say, one of the best managers in the world a big contract extension, that if he does blow up this summer, or let's say next season, let's say he wins the league this year, and next year let's say next year he wins a Carabao Cup, but he doesn't win the league, doesn't win in Europe. You know, Arsenal go and spend another 200, 300 million pounds. You know, it comes a time and a point where Arsenal have to be looking for more, given the opportunity that they have. What you don't want to do is have a manager you've just given a new contract to, you know, for 5 years or whatever, have to get rid of him. It just seems crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't rate him as manager. Full stop. I just don't rate him at all. Don't care if he wins the Premier League this year. shows that Arne Slot won the Premier League last year, and he's not a great manager, is he? So.
Okay, anything else, James?
No, obviously I saw the comments by Harry Maguire saying no one's taken as much abuse as me online and things like that. And in the week he signed a new contract with Man United. I can't believe that Tuchel came out and said he's my 6th choice centre back. I'd take him for England. I don't think he's great, but I'd definitely take him for the World Cup. Harry Maguire. Arsenal, you're saying you're going to spend another 200 million. I'm not sure they will, because there's rumours also about Lewis Skelly wanting more game time, and Nwaneri coming back from loan from Marseille, obviously. So they might have to sell those 2 players to actually be able to spend. But they're going to want astronomical fees with those lads. No, just another good set of fixes in the Championship this weekend. Obviously, Leicester, they appealed their 6-point reduction, didn't get anywhere with that, which is probably lucky they didn't get more points, actually. Still awaiting the charges on Man City, but we'll have to wait now for another couple of years, probably. And, no, it's, back to normal, isn't it? Last stretch of the Premier League, 7 or 8 games left into the World Cup, which isn't far away. It's only 2 months to start the World Cup. I think the 11th of June, isn't it, the World Cup? So not long before 5 weeks of 48 teams in the World Cup with 4 or 5 games a day at all hours.
Sounds good. Sounds fun. But okay, right, James, enjoy the weekend sport, and we'll catch up Monday.
Yeah, any questions, obviously, let us know, and we'll try and answer them as best we can. But enjoy. Luke, I'm sure you'll be watching a lot of the Masters this weekend, so Sunday night, sit yourselves down and cheer on Rory to win back-to-back. Your favourite player, Luke? I know he is, secretly.
Is your favourite player, James?
Certainly not. I think it's Sky Sports Rory, isn't it, at the moment? Not Sky Sports Golf. But there you go. Anyway, enjoy it all. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.